that? I don't know. Sorry. Mm,
Oh, that's better. That's much better.
That's much better.
I don't hear them.
Last week, the same thing happened. And they didn't get started until somebody turned the microphone on, if you remember. Remember? Last week, exactly the same thing happened. We were waiting to hear, and all of a sudden, you hear it.
you? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are on page 10.
ידיד נפש, אב הרחמן, משוך עבדך אל רצונך, ירוץ עבדך כמו היה, ישתחווה אל מולדתך, ידיד נפש, אב הרחמן, משוך עבדך אל רצונך. יאללה לי 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 לה לה לי לי לה לי, יאללה לי 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 לה לי, יאללה לי לי לה לי, יאללה לי לי לה לי, יאללה לי 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 לה 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 לה, יאללה לי 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 לה לה לי לי לי, יאללה לי 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 לה 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 לה, יאללה לי 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 לה לה לי לי לי, yalla lai 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 lai. The hot leak there. Amen.
Thank you, and thank you for lighting the candles in memory of your mother. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Page 12. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzor yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo, ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, אשר בידו מחקרי הארץ ותועפות הרים לו. Top of 13. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומחולל מאור, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים, ואדוני שמיים עשה. הוד והדר לפניו, עוז ותפארת במקדשו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים ומלואו, יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים ומלואו. יעלו שרי וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל הצייר, לפני ארוני קיווה, קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט הבל בצדק, ועמים באמונתו.
Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples in faithfulness.
Page 14 at the bottom, but you won't need the words yet. Join with me. Bum biddy bum 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 bum. Let me hear you. Bum biddy 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 bum ya da da ya da da ya da da ya da 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 ya da da ya da da ya da da ya da 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 or zaru ala tzadik hu yishrei lev simcha or zaru ala tzadik hu yishrei lev simcha ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 bum biddy bum 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 bum simchu tzadikim baronai vehodu lezecher kodsho.
Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. Page 15.
Zamru l'Adonai vechino veko zimra Zamru l'Adonai vechino veko zimra Zamru l'Adonai bechino veko zimra Zamru l'Adonai bechino veko zimra. לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק וימים במישרים.
Page 18. A Psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters, the voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox.
Lai, 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 lai.
שכיני לי כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש כל אדוני יחיר מדבר יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש כל אדוני יחלל אילות ויחשוף רעות ובהיכלו כולו מרכבות אדוני למה בו ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום דידי לי 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 לי
Page 20.
לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד הישמענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה. Now I want you to try something, if you would be so bold as to try to sway a little bit just to the rhythm. There's a teaching in our tradition that when one prays, they should sway like the branches of a tree. And so I want you to give yourself permission to move a little bit because, as you know, next weekend we're going to be moving a lot. So I want to give you the permission to get warmed up as we greet the spirit of Shabbat. Let's do it again with verse 2. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
If you would like to rise to welcome the Shabbat bride, I invite you to do so. You may also remain seated if you choose.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
On page 25, let's read together at the bottom of the page. And so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you too yourself may be a messenger, perhaps even one whose errand extends over several lifetimes. On the opposite page, we welcome the angels of Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barechuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitechem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Please close your books. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
I feel like if Jason, I'm not sure where Jason is, but it feels like my microphone is not very loud. You guys able to hear okay? You are, okay. All right, good. Shabbat Shalom, good to see everybody. We're big fans of the Hamilton soundtrack in our house. Raise your hand if you like the Hamilton soundtrack. So we, of course, like so many others, we listen to the soundtrack all the time. So a post I saw on Facebook the other day, actually by one of our congregants, caught my eye and made me laugh. It said, and I'll do the Hamilton voice if I can, "You don't have the votes. You don't have the votes. You're gonna need congressional approval and you don't have the votes." That was so funny. Very apropos, right? The choice of these Hamilton lyrics to poke fun at the drama unfolding on Capitol Hill this week was pitch perfect. As we've been hearing people say all week, democracy is messy. In one sense, what we're seeing play out on the House floor is what democracy ought to be. Think about how critical we generally are when politicians just reflexively fall in line behind a leader just because they have the same letter by their name. It feels tribalist and petty and unthinking, even cultish. So in that sense, at least, I think it's kind of refreshing to see some of them refuse to just go along to get along. I've never been one who thinks that you should just play ball because everyone else is doing it, or because the popular kids or the big bosses say to do it. But in another respect, I think what we're seeing is something that is potentially quite threatening to democracy. You know by now that I am deeply committed to the value of pluralism. And I fear that what we're seeing in the battle over the speakership is but one symptom of a strong and growing strain of anti-pluralism in our country. One that makes no room for disagreement and brooks no compromise. That strain has infected not only our politics, but also, sadly, so many other spheres of American life. So this Shabbat, which is also January 6th, because of course it is, presents an opportunity to explore the topic of compromise through a Jewish lens. The French Jewish philosopher Emmanuel Levinas said that if you massage the text of the Talmud hard enough, it will inevitably speak to you and produce some insight that you need to learn. Well, it turns out that when it comes to the question of compromise, we don't have to massage all that hard to find what we're looking for. On page 6b of the Talmudic volume Sanhedrin, we find a discussion of two sages who held drastically different views on the topic of compromise, which are not unlike the two schools of thought represented in the current House Speaker drama. On one side, we have Rabbi Eliezer. He was known as a brilliant rabbi and scholar. He's sometimes called Rabbi Eliezer the Great because of his incomparable knowledge and ability to discern the true meaning of the Torah in its perfection and purity. As the modern scholar Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz describes him, Rabbi Eliezer zealously believed in the integrity of ideas and was unable to reach a compromise of any kind. And perhaps in part because of his brilliance, but mainly because of his temperament and personality, he was the kind of person you might remember I talked about in my Yom Kippur sermon. He believed he was always right, and he left no room for differing viewpoints. So in a famous Talmudic story, where the sages are discussing a particular question of halakha, which is Jewish law, and 90% of them end up voting one way, Rabbi Eliezer is the only holdout. And like the dwindling number of House members who oppose Kevin McCarthy's bid for Speaker, Rabbi Eliezer kept insisting against the consensus of the group on ballot after ballot, as it were, that they were wrong and he was right. Needless to say, he didn't win a lot of friends. In fact, after that whole episode, they ended up kicking him out of the Sages Club altogether. He was excommunicated. So as incisive and brilliant a Torah scholar as he was, Rabbi Eliezer ended up, as Steinsaltz puts it, the lonely man whose principles made him powerless to influence others. Not surprisingly, Rabbi Eliezer argued that, quote, it is prohibited to compromise, and anyone who compromises is a sinner, and anyone who blesses the compromiser is cursing God. He says that in the Talmud, which sounds kind of familiar, right? It feels like we've gotten to this place in our politics and our culture where, for some people, compromise is a dirty word. And anyone who believes you should listen to the other side and take their opinion seriously, let alone try to negotiate and find common ground with them, is weak or evil or a sellout, insufficiently committed to the cause, and therefore untrustworthy. Not a good way to get things done. Not a good way to make friends and have good relationships. And not, in my opinion, a very healthy outlook on life. On the other side of the Talmudic debate, we have Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha. We don't know as much about his personality, but we do know that he was a highly regarded teacher and that he lived to a prodigious old age. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha taught that, quote, it's a mitzvah to find compromise. This means that when two sides are in a dispute over something, they are obligated to negotiate and make every effort to reach a compromise solution. Basing his view on a biblical instruction that leaders should pursue both the rule of law and peace in their communities, Rabbi Yehoshua says, isn't it true that in a place where there's strict rule of law, there can be no peace? And in a place where there is true peace, there can be no strict rule of law. Meaning, applying the law in a strict and unfeeling way, like a machine, won't lead to peace. It will rather create resentment and hostility. But similarly, if you pursue peace exclusively without any rule of law, that will lead to chaos and conflict. So, says Rabbi Yehoshua, when the prophet says to pursue both the rule of law and peace, he must mean that we should pursue a rule of law that has peace within it. And what does that mean, he says? That means compromise. Compromise is about upholding principle and order, but in a way that is both peaceful and leads to peaceful outcomes. To do this, we have to be genuinely interested in finding what the leadership expert Thomas Gordon calls no-lose solutions. And here's how he describes this approach. You and I have a conflict of needs. I respect your needs, but I must respect my own too. I will not use my power over you so I win and you lose, but I cannot give in and let you win at the expense of my losing. So let's agree to search together for a solution that would satisfy your needs and also satisfy mine, so no one loses, which is really hard to do. It's the opposite of Rabbi Eliezer's unyielding fight to the death to get his own way because he's absolutely sure he's right and the other side is wrong. Now, I know I keep saying this in sermons, but I think it has to be repeated for as long as it takes because our society, our democracy, our communities, our relationships are in peril right now. The only way to get there and make things better, I think, is to make room for other opinions, even when you disagree with them. It means being willing to learn from those who see it differently than we do. And then to find a way to blend the best of their ideas with the best of our own to arrive at something mutually beneficial that neither of us had thought of before. It means that if you don't have the votes, instead of digging in even deeper, you've got to work with sincerity and an open mind to win them over. in the midst of all the fury and outrage and venom and schadenfreude. This, I believe, is the higher spiritual calling of our time. This Shabbat, we finish reading the book of Genesis in the Torah, which marks a close to the patriarchal and matriarchal phase of the Jewish story. By the end of this week's parasha, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, Zilpah, and Joseph have all passed from the scene. It will now be up to the next generation to carry forward what they have started. A midrash describes Jacob on his deathbed, feeling anxious about his children's ability to meet this challenge. Are they up to it, he wonders. Can I trust that they will honor our legacy and keep this thing going? As he's surrounded by his children, Jacob is literally holding his breath. But then his children surprise him. Don't worry, Dad, they say. Everything you taught us, it's in our hearts and in our bones. We got this. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And when he hears that, Jacob breathes a sigh of relief. And then he dies peacefully. I feel like we in America are in a similar transitional phase. The age of the founders, of course, is long gone, but they passed the tradition of democracy on to the generations that came after them, and eventually on to us. And that tradition can only survive and thrive if we embrace pluralism and compromise. Are we up to this? To keeping this thing they started going? Will we choose the path of Rabbi Eliezer or the path of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha? We stand, as they say, on the shoulders of giants. And tonight, I have a feeling those giants are holding their breath. Can we as a society find a way to get out of this polarized, tribalist mess we've created and give them a reason to exhale? Shabbat Shalom.
Please rise. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed.
Page 30. Let's read together. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המארי והרבי.
Page 32.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו, ויורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 37, together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. Page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 42.
השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ויעמידנו שומרנו, שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ויעמידנו שומרנו, שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Join me on page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth.
For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth, prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Page 45. Let's read at the top together. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable, without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time.
Page 44. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 46. Please rise.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ורחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 52. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום, יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue in private meditations using the words provided on either side of the page or using the language of our hearts.
feel free to continue your private meditations at your own pace. And also join me on page 62 at the bottom for a final plea for peace and wholeness. Ose shalom bimromav, o ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, o ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We take a moment now to pray for our loved ones and friends and family members and members of our community, people whose names we know and those whose names we don't know too. People who are struggling with illness and pain and sadness and grief, who need God's healing and peace and strength. If you're praying for someone this evening and you'd like to share their name, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet you.
Arlene Ament.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Ellen. Thanks, Claire. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Gilda. May God be with all of them and bring them a speedy renewal of body and spirit. Page 253.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us
Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Page 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Top of 284. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. Ein od. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness. Join me on 285. When superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all, created in your image, become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Kakatu betoratecha Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Ve'nemar ve'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu Yihye Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
Please be seated. We turn our thoughts now toward those who have passed from this world, our loved ones. If you are comfortable and able to do so, I invite you to rise as you hear the name of your loved one read. On this Shabbat, we are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, for Stephen J. Cobley, Stuart London, Daniel Motion, and Rosalind Mendel. We recall the yard sites of William Adelberg, Rosalind Berger, Beatrice C. Chaprak, Benjamin Cooper, Harriet Corson, Robert Corson, Alma Deligtish, Nathan Finkelstein, Hannah Ginsberg, Arthur Litz, Mort Lubert, Mark Moore, Miriam Moore, Harry Pessar, Herbert Riesenberg, Morris Strackman, Rose Strackman, Howard Teitel, Saul Woolner, Arlene D. Zucker, and Bernard Perlman. If you're remembering someone whose name was not read and you'd like to share it with us, I invite you to do so now. Thank you, Renee. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If it is your custom to rise for the Kaddish, I invite you to do so. You may also choose to remain seated. On page 294, we join together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru. Amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevorach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
May the one who makes harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world. May their memories be for a blessing. We say together, Amen. Please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
I'd like to say thank you to Cantor Adam and to Shai for the inspiring music this evening. And next Shabbat on Friday, June. I keep doing that.
We wish. We wish it was June.
One of those J months. On Friday, January 13th, we'll have our special MLK weekend Shabbat service featuring a wonderful choir that Cantor has been working. You want to say something, Cantor, about it?
They're a wonderful choir. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I appreciate your getting into the swing of things, so to speak.
All right, so that's going to be great. And of course, the Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, will be here to speak, and that's going to be very special. Our office is asking if you plan to come, just let Joy P know, or somebody in the office, let us know so that we know how many people to plan for, because we're expecting a big turnout, which is very exciting. We'll be in the sanctuary downstairs for that. And I want to say thank you to Roger Tillis, who has also worked so hard to put this together. Let's see, what is coming up? We have, well, there's a lot of stuff, but you can look in your email.
Check your email.
Check your email. You know, there's a really good email that Freda puts together for us. Let's say thank you to the Margaloff family for baking the challah. Let's say thank you to Phil. Phil, I want you to stand up. You need to stand up from now on. Phil is our usher. He greets everybody so warmly and with such a friendly smile, and makes us all feel good as we come in. So, Phil, thank you for being our all-star usher. And I want to say thank you to our wonderful bakers. So, when I say your name, please rise so that we can thank you. Linda Diamond, Sharon Freeman, Cheryl Silverstein,
Yay.
Roberta Lulov. And of course, if there are others of you who like to bake, and I'm sure there are, all you need to do is talk to Joy P. Joy P is right here. Joy P, stand up. Joy P works so hard in the office, makes everything happen. Thank you to Joy P, and thank you, Joy, for being here. And I think that's it for the announcements this evening.
I have one small thing.
Oh,
It's a request. I see some less familiar faces out there. And if you are a first timer, or if you're a once in a whiler, or if it's your first time here in a long time, please come up and say hi to us. Don't run away. There's delicious treats downstairs. Let us talk to you for a little bit and get to know you and enjoy the warm embrace of our community.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cantor. Welcome to our first timers. And I'd like to invite Eric to come on up for the Kiddush. Eric will be leading the Kiddush this evening, and memory of his mother and his grandfather and his uncle, all whose yahrzeits occur in this week. I invite you to please rise.
ויהי רבעי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סבי. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen. I have a request as we close. As many of you know, today's date is January 6th. And in addition to the strife that we see in the Congress, we remember that 2 years ago, many of those same people were ducking and covering as the Capitol was assaulted. And so, in the spirit of the rabbi's sermon and in the spirit of unity and support of patriotism and this country, let's turn to page 376 and sing together, God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.